Good morning, everybody. It is Rob. I am back after a little bit of a break. I've been dealing with various things in my life. I've been sick the last couple of days, so that's been fun. Actually, since last Wednesday. So technically 1 week. Um, I'm still kind of recovering from that. Almost back to 100%. We're getting there. No, I did not have the Rona. Although I thought I did, but no, it's the regular flu. And then obviously various other things that have come up have put the show on hold. And hey, that's fine. I mean, I don't think anybody really misses it anyway. But if you did, we're back. Um, and boy, a lot of things have happened since I have not been on the air. Uh, Obviously, the Queen of England died. That's probably the biggest story to come out of all this, I think, since the break. I don't, personally, I don't really care about the monarchy over there. It's just a big popularity contest, kind of like how the Kardashians are over here. Except I think there's a little bit more elegance and class with the monarchy. But it's all the same. It's just this big puppet show, ultimately, and it's nothing that I really care about. But obviously that was kind of the big news story for a while. Um, but in terms of story wise, the biggest stuff is still the same stories that we hear week in and week out. Ukraine and Russia, obviously politics. We know election day is coming up, so people are getting really hefty about voting and stuff like that. If you're a sports fan, football is back in the swing of things. It's been chaotic. There's been a lot of stuff going on. And I want to start right off the day with a wonderful story um, that I think is kind of a really cool situation because we've seen it before with cloning a sheep, but now Chinese researchers finally were able to clone an Arctic wolf, um, which is crazy. Uh, it is um, absolutely crazy. I'm going to probably butcher some of these names, but the company Syngene Biotechnology uh, unveiled the clone of the Arctic wolf named Maya on Monday, marking 100 days since she was born on June 10th. So she is surviving and is in healthy condition, according to the company. The general manager of the company, Mi Zedong, I think that's how, again, I might be butchering names, and stated, after 2 years of painstaking efforts, the Arctic wolf was cloned successfully. It is the first case of its kind in the world, which indeed, a successful cloning is not easy by any means. And obviously, the biggest thing is conservation efforts when you're looking at cloning. It's not necessarily that, oh, we want to do this just to see if, hey, we can possibly clone a human in time, which, we don't need to. We got enough humans as it is. But obviously when you look at some species that maybe are not doing well, they're getting to that point where it's near extinction, we can maybe force a reproductive. Now I know there's going to be the religious side of things and say, well, cloning is, against the moral value. Well, okay, but we're trying to at least create the ability to produce life in an unnatural form, make it so that we can continue to increase the chances of less and less species falling to that extinction list. And we've seen it. That list is only growing, and it's if you don't pay attention to it, it can be rather alarming. And I know a lot of people are going to probably say, well, a lot of the animals on there don't really pose a massive part to like society. They're not going to make a big deal in the natural world. But then you think about obviously the conservation of honeybees and how that's been kind of a real back and forth kind of battle. That this type of stuff can really make a difference in that area. And obviously an Arctic wolf is one thing, right? I mean, it's just a test. It's kind of like, hey, we're doing everything we can to make this a possibility, and they did. They said after 2 years of just incredible work, and it is incredible. Um, it is unbelievable. Is it controversial? Absolutely. People are not going to always be a fan of it, and you know what? I say screw you to those that don't like it, because guess what? This needs to be done. Um, I'm one of those that believes that scientific and medical research needs to be at a constant in order for our society to continue to grow. We can't keep falling back into these old habits. And I'm not trying to knock religion, but that they are the primary source of why medical and scientific development, innovation, and overall just research projects get upheld because of it's against the code of our religion, it's against our morals, it's against our overall ideas of life and sustaining life. Well, we are able to build cars. We've been able to build incredible architectural masterpieces in these massive buildings, like obviously you see with One World Trade Center they built. We're able to have airplanes and speed trains, and we're able to have boats, and we're able to have all these things that have been incredible advancements. But you don't want to conserve animals because it's against the natural, I guess, law. That's that they need to be reproduced through their own way. Look, am I for the ethical treatment of animals? There's a thin line. We need animals for food, right? That's the biggest thing. And no, I don't think cows are going away anytime soon. Or obviously, if you eat beef, pork, chicken, uh, fish, none of that stuff's going away right now. None of it. Okay, we're gonna have an abundance of it. Especially if you like eating chicken, right? There's a lot of chicken. But then you look at situations where you have these epidemics, like the bird flu, that take out a lot of that population, and they raise increasing prices. Now, if we're able to clone animals, we may be able to work with the genetic technology in order to make it so that these epidemics are few and far between rather than them happening almost concurrently. And I know, obviously with the genetically modified foods and stuff like that, I know that was always something that's still a controversial conversation, just because a lot of people think that plays an effect to diseases and illnesses, things like that. Born illnesses like autism, things. Obviously people they want to put a finger on everything and say, okay, this is why this is happening. And yeah, there's going to be research done, and there's things that we can look back at and say, okay, yeah, the food that we're eating maybe isn't always great for us. We know that. We're still doing it though. But if we can at least get to a point where we can study and research these things and say, hey, we can at least make it plausible. All right. And I'm not saying anybody's going to eat an Arctic wolf. That's not what I'm saying. But at least we can make efforts to conserve populations of the animal kingdom that can help us grow and possibly develop even new technologies. And the wonderful thing is, although I know people have their opinion on China, they have companies over there that sometimes they don't have restraints on them where they can do this stuff. And that's the beauty. In the United States, unfortunately, there's a lot of companies that have restraints on what they can do just based on, again, the unfortunate fact that politics and the church did not get separated quite well, and that still is the case. So we do have companies that unfortunately have been restricted. Kind of like NASA, do they get a lot of funding? Absolutely, but do they get the necessary funding to make projects constant, instead of doing these simple shuttles back and forth to the space station? We could do more with research on Mars if we put a lot more money into it. Stop putting it into the military. We could do a whole hell of a lot more. Same with giving companies a little bit more leeway. Of course, we want to stay and I know that the United States, the big thing is ethics. It's always going to be that way. It's the ethical thing. Like, oh, is this right? Should we really be testing on animals? No, it doesn't look right when you see the images and stuff of these like monkeys, and they're kind of strapped to tables, and they're kind of getting. It looks torturous. It does, and I'm one that I can't stand looking at it. I find it to be absolutely disgusting. But if you think about this, right? Think about all the times that we've had animals in our lives, right? Pets. For example, pets. Let's say you had a really beloved dog, okay? Dog gets old, ends up passing away, right? Well, what if before the dog passes away, you had the ability to extract its genetic makeup and clone that dog so you could have a younger version of the same dog? The same exact dog that you knew your life would be cloned. And you can live with that dog yet again from start to finish and have more moments. No, I know. It's hard to think about because obviously it is still a replacement, but it's not like, hey, I don't necessarily have to go out and find a new dog, go through a whole new process. I at least know what I can have, right? That's the potential that we could see. You could see your beloved pets being cloned, and then you really don't have to face that that just feeling of sadness when they pass. You get to be like, hey, at least I can experience a little bit more time than whatever you initially had. So, especially with pets that get diseases kind of really early in their life, and they end up having to be put down at like 2, 3 years old, and you really loved that dog or whatever, you can at least make an effort. That's the goal as well. There's a part of that on top of the conservation efforts. Um, now, um, I think I know back in 2020 there was a some American scientists that cloned an endangered black-footed ferret, and so these are the things that you can do, and that's something that they've been looking at is like, hey, can we go back and can we get DNA from like woolly mammoths? Now, I'm not going to say I don't think a woolly mammoth would be able to survive on Earth today just because of the way the Earth is currently made up of. I don't think they could last in the climate, but there are certainly things you can do, right? Like in Australia, they got the Tasmanian tigers. There could be a possibility that they could try to clone those and bring them back to life. Same with the Sumatran rhino in Malaysia, and they froze a lot of the cells and the tissues from some of the dead rhinos, and they're going to end up trying to clone it. I don't know how. I kind of am curious as to how they're going to be able to figure this out, but there's ways that they can make this work, and I'm all for it. All for the cloning process. I think it's very interesting. As long as we don't clone humans, I think I think that's where I draw the line a little bit because we have so many of us. It's almost unnecessary. And no cloning mosquitoes either, for the love of God. If we could find a way to wipe them off the face of the earth, that would be great. That would be fantastic. That I would be all in on that. Um, but obviously, this is awesome to see that this is being done. I obviously there's going to be more tests done, but this could also be a great way to get countries to kind of work together instead of being so opposed and at odds all the time. Um, is, if we can do scientific developments between countries and say, hey, I have this research that may help yours, and we can continue to grow and help each other. And that's kind of the beauty with science and medicine. It's like, hey, if we can find ways to work together, I think things would move a little bit more pertinent. I think we could find better ways of engaging conversations between countries, especially when it is a very hot environment. We all know that. We know there's a lot of tension out there. There's a lot of people that don't like one another. um, and if we could find ways to make peace and make some sort of order in the world, that'd be fantastic, right? Um, so yeah, there's beauty in it. Now, let's. I want to kind of switch subjects here into something a little bit more personal. I wanted to start it off with a kind of a cool story just to kind of get things going, but I wanted to talk about this on this show just because there's going to be people that are listening to this that are not really gonna. They might understand where I'm coming from, and that's fine. Um, but I want to bring this up just because this this just sickens me, and it's the fact that a lot of people that we see in our lives will come out and say, "Hey, I want to see others succeed. I want to see people do really well in their life, right?" And there are people that want to see that. Absolutely. But when it comes to certain individuals, and I'm not going to name names, but it's more of like, well, so and so's got this. I need to have the next best thing. And what I mean by is like this competitive nature. And I bring this up because um unfortunately there's people that I know that say they want to see people succeed and say they want to see people do really well in life, but at the same time they are quick to point out your flaws, quick to point out your maybe some of the negative moments in your life, and they're quick to pass judgment real fast. And I mean to the point where you can't even explain yourself or have somebody like let's say you get and this is just an example, right? You get a new job. You're making a lot more money than where you were before. You're doing really well for yourself. You're feeling great. You're feeling like, "Hey, I'm finally moving up in my life." And you really want to share it with people, right? You want to share your successes. You want to show people that you're making the most out of your opportunities and you're finally taking the bull by its horns. And while you're sharing your successes, and they may not do this in front of your face, they may do this behind your back. But people are saying, well, it's only a matter of time before they go back to doing what they were doing before, being unemployed, doing drugs. stealing, whatever the hell the case may be. It's only a matter of time. Oh, remember when you used to do this? Remember when you used to go out and bum people for cigarettes? Remember when you used to steal from stores? All these little things. And these are just all examples. This is not based on any real evidence, but I'm just saying that this is the type of stuff that I notice out of people that are close to me. And I don't care if they get mad at me. They can get mad at me. I really don't give a damn. If you get mad at me, then you know you're admitting to your flaw here. And especially it goes with family. Especially. Because you think family are the ones that are supposed to be, out there looking out for your best interest, right? You would assume that. But of course, it's not always the case. Sometimes they care more about trashing you to make themselves feel better than actually lifting you up, whether it be spiritually, mentally, physically, no matter what the case may be. They want to sometimes see you fail so that they have something against you, so that they have something one up on you. And it's sick. Absolutely sick. And the sad part is the ones that do it the most are the ones that contradict themselves by stating these little opinions like, I really do want to see people succeed. No, you don't. No, you don't. You don't care. You don't care. You never did. And that's just it's so funny, because we're taught, a lot of us are taught from our parents like, hey, I need you to do things that I need you to avoid the things that I did when I was a kid, right? Kind of like my dad does that to me all the time. He tell me these stories of when, he was my age and what he was doing at that time, right? He was this party animal, whatever, right? He's like, you don't have that type of lifestyle. And I don't. I'm not a big party guy. Never have been. I don't thoroughly enjoy that. Um, do I like drinks? Absolutely I do. But do I like overindulging myself to the point where I can't walk and I can't do things and I'm that's my weekend every weekend? Yeah, no, that's not me. Right? I don't have that. I don't have the ability to say, yeah, I want to get drunk every single weekend. That's just not me. Where with like our elders, we see that. We see like, oh, they tell stories about their young days and how they were able to overcome a lot of the odds and their things that they had to do in order to make a life for themselves. And we're supposed to learn from that, and we're also supposed to be better than that too. There's a lot of us that are kind of tested to that. But then here's where the story gets a little more interesting. Then you get those in your life that see you trying to make better for your own situation, seeing you trying to improve your chances of being successful in life, and they want to knock you down. They want to bring up those negatives. They want to poke you with those negatives and make it so that they get you, right? They get you angry and they force you into this shell again. And then you start finding yourself succumbing to this just disappointment, and then you go back to the way things were because that's what you're known. That's what you have been told is like, hey, this is you. This is the preconceived notion that we have of you. The biggest example is I'm a quiet person. I always have been, even though I talk on here. Strange, isn't it? And I talk rather openly on here. I'm not going to say names, but I will absolutely call people out on their BS. And the big thing is, I'm someone that's quiet. I hold a lot of things back in. I usually don't overexpose myself. Because, if I'm angry at somebody, right, will I conversate with them about it? Absolutely. I will find time to make a conversation about it, but I'm trying to be friendly. I don't want to be absolutely just disparaging the whole time and say, F you, whatever. And So when I find time for that, I want to make sure that my point gets across and that I'm not being looked at as like an a-hole for holding it back. So what I do is I kind of close it in, right? I give people the benefit of the doubt a lot of times. But the more and more you start to just realize how awful some people are, it really drives you into a wall. And you can't take it anymore. No, I'm not a confrontational guy, never have been. Um, I'm starting to learn to, kind of, hey, speak up for myself. I'm trying to learn that and be a little bit more like, hey, take action instead of allowing people to step all over me. But it does get sickening. It does. It really does. And the biggest example I can give out of that is, for example, um, I wanted to attend an event, right? Now, I was willing to let other people go ahead of me because I thought, yeah, it's better that way. Um, and that's kind of the way I wanted to do it. I wasn't trying to step on anybody's toes or be like, yeah, I want to do this instead of you, whatever. So anyway, I so I ultimately decided to let others go. And one individual said that they didn't want to go. So I was like, okay, so fair enough. No big deal. No, okay, I can go. Absolutely. And then a couple days down the line, excuse me, uh, I'm told all of a sudden now that person wants to go. And I'm thinking, well, they said they didn't want to go, they didn't care to go, and now all of a sudden they want to go, but they didn't confront me about it. They didn't ask me personally. They had somebody do it for them. And maybe that was whether it was intentional or unintentional, I don't know. I'm never gonna get to the bottom of it. But it's a respect thing. It's like, okay, I kind of just I clamored and I said, okay, well, I guess I'm not going. Because it was brought up to me like, well, now we need to figure out who's all going. And I said, well, hey, I think we've got a list. I think everybody knows now. We know I'm going. It's like, well, now so and so wants to go. And it was like basically, oh, so and so wants to go, so now you can't go. Nobody else was asked not to go. It was specifically me. It was targeted to me. Now, did I put myself into the situation because I said I was willing to let somebody else take my place initially? Absolutely. 5 individuals, there were 4 tickets to this event. I basically said, I've been to a lot. Somebody else can go, but somebody didn't want to go. But it's a respect thing. And it really drove me nuts because it's like nobody. And then the crazy thing about it was I did let it get to me. And I should have been a bigger person about it and just said, hey, guys, this was kind of rude and disrespectful to me that you didn't come up to me and ask me to bow out. Or say, hey, I would love to go. And I know these 3 are going. Could you possibly sit this one? I would have easily been like, absolutely. I would have had no problem. Now, here's where my head screws me up. Is I would have assumed if I went, right? If I said, no, I'm going. If I would have just been so forceful about it, there would have been a negative tone. That was my assumption, and that's just me being a nutcase. I would have assumed that there would have been some sort of problem. And then I got to deal with that problem whenever I see this individual. I got to deal with maybe the looks or whatever. So I thought, maybe it's better for me to suffer. And then now I've got to think about it. It's like, why? Why should I suffer for anybody else's benefits? Why? Why should I skip on my wants and my needs for somebody else, right? Now, me being the nice guy that I am, yes, I am a nice guy. Try to be at least. I look at it like, hey, I'm going to give somebody an opportunity to go out and have fun. And yes, unfortunately, it is ultimately at the expense of me not being able to go. I guess, tough shit, right? But when you initially say you don't want to go, and then in a couple of days, all of a sudden I got somebody coming up to me saying, "Hey, we need to figure out who's all going," and I'm already assuming we know who's going. We have the group, and then it's like, well, no, I mean, we don't really have it locked in, because now somebody wants to go, and basically it's like, well, you're the only one that can't go now. It's like I was singled out. I was singled out, and that's how I felt. And this is what I'm talking about, right? Because unfortunately, this has happened to me on multiple occasions where I've had to watch and I've had to listen to people like sit there and plot and plan these like fun things. And I'm just like, I'm sitting there. I'm the one that has to listen to this. And it's like, this is kind of almost like it's kind of like, when you're sitting at a lunch table in high school and you're hearing people talk about like, yeah, I got this class, and that, and they're talking about all the stuff that they just did, and you're just kind of like, thanks for including me in the conversation, guys. You feel really left out. Now I know there could be no bad intentions to that, and that's again when your head is filled up with those thoughts of like, they're all playing against you, everything's against you, blah blah blah. You start to think that you are the lone one out. And this all ties back somehow. I'll figure it out. But the big thing is we can't allow people to make us feel miserable for our decisions, right? We can't allow that. And the reason I say that is because I bring this back to the fact that, when you got people that they say they want to see your successes, but yet they are the first ones that are willing to bring up your problems, and they're willing to bring up all the negative moments in your past in order to throw it back in your face. I'm saying we cannot allow that to be the narrative. We cannot. Now, we wouldn't be the better person by doing it back, right? We wouldn't be the better person by saying, "Oh, yeah, well, you did this," and that just creates a problem. It creates a conflict that could ultimately be avoided if both parties would just accept the fact that, yes, we've all had negatives, we've all had problems in our life, but guess what? We're moving on. Now, if you can't move on from that, then so be it. You're stuck in your own little warp, and that's unfortunate for you. Okay, I feel bad for you. But you can't keep doing this to people. And you can't keep holding grudges for people either. You can't. You can't allow yourself to let somebody put so much into your head at a negative. And that's something that I obviously am trying to work against. And I'm saying this for everybody to remember this. I'm not a good advice guy. I'm really not. I'm not a good therapist. I'm none of this. But I'm telling you, because I see it with a lot of people that I know, that they just get so caught up and they let people wear them down. And I'm not going to name names, but it's some people that are really close to me. And I've heard them time and time again say, it's just sick. It just sickens me, the fact that I got to continue to take this. I can't believe it. And so I'm always in the thought like, why do you allow yourself to take this? Why? Why do you allow yourself to be in a toxic situation? Having toxic friendships or toxic relationships with people in your family. Having conversations that usually dive into just negative context. They never end up being positive. That's what I mean. You can't allow people to put so much weight on you and force you into this negative head all the time. I've succumbed to that at a lot of occasions, more than I'm comfortable with. You just can't allow it. Cannot. You cannot allow people to put that much weight onto you because it's wrong. We all know it's wrong. And they know it's wrong too, but they don't know the right from wrong at this point because clearly they're living in a child mentality. So it's on us to be better. We're supposed to be better, right? That's what we're taught, is we're supposed to be better than the ones before us. Now, if your parents didn't tell you to be better than them, Yeah, I don't know what kind of parents you had. You might have had egotistical parents, unfortunately. But I know both of my parents have told me that I need to be better than them. They have. And I've done my part to try. I'm not going to say I want to be better than them because that's not my goal. My goal in life is actually to be better than the person that I strive to be. I want to be better than my set frame. Okay? That's my ultimate goal. So it's no, my goal in life is not to be better than my mother or my father. That's not not the goal in life. Um, but do I want to be better than who I was yesterday? Absolutely. That's the goal. Now, if I were to sit back and just allow people to just work into my head all the time, it wouldn't be the case. I would be destroyed. I would be destroyed mentally, physically. I wouldn't want to do anything. I would want to just kind of melt into that shell because it is the truth. People say they want to see you succeed, but they really, at least in the hidden eye of things, they don't. And it just sucks. You know, you look at how things could be better, right? And things could always be better. Always. Not saying it's going to be, but things could always be 100% better. So, the big takeaway from this is if you really are feeling like people are driving against you, are finding ways to drive against you, right? People are constantly bringing up negatives in your past. And it's been done to me. I can't say I was always the best at school. You know, I never was. Um, there was times where I would just do nothing but throw papers in a locker and say, whatever. I would do half of them. I would throw them in a locker and say, I'll finish them. I would never would. And the embarrassing part is, this is back in I think sixth grade. Uh, and the embarrassing thing is my locker gets opened at, I think it was like after school one day. And people and these teachers are like, oh my God. And so this is like the start of like the laziness, right? And I was very lazy. I cared more about hanging out with friends and stuff than anything. And the problem with me is even though I kind of, and this is the weird, like I look like a stereotypical nerd. I really do. I have the glasses. I got the you know the hairstyle that's the most basic great clips haircut. I I look like just like this kid that just cares more about the books and hitting the books and paying attention to that than actually going out and being a friend. I did well for myself in terms of friendships, but I learned, when I got into high school, I learned, friendships are not necessarily the most important thing. It's also about you. It's about how you want to make your life. So in high school, I tried to do a little bit better for myself. And I found myself actually doing well. And I ended up graduating, doing really okay. No, I wasn't an honor student. I didn't have I had the capabilities to be an honor student. Let me just say that. Let me say I do have the capabilities. If I could go back, I would be an honor student. I'd probably be the top of the class just because I have the smarts. I'm not a dumb guy. I'm not dumb. I'm smart. But you know, it's the fact that these things get brought up in passing conversations. And it's like, I don't want to hear it. I don't. Because they're not bringing it up for a positive. They're not bringing it up like, you were, I look back and, you know, school just didn't seem like it was for you, but look at you, you've done really well. Like they don't bring it up that way. It's always like, how do you know this stuff? You didn't even care about school. That's how it gets brought up. It's brought up in a negative. It doesn't get brought up in like a, oh my God, look at the transition. Look at how you've made the impact. That's what I mean, right? See, if people would just spin their words a little bit better, it wouldn't be so bad. I wouldn't be sitting here talking about it for 20 minutes. I'm sure this is boring people. But this is the truth, right? And on this show, I'm going to reveal a lot about myself. That's who I am. So speaking of that, let me reveal some fun stuff, right? Let me reveal some funner things. Now, I'm somebody that, like I said before, I give the benefit of the doubt to a lot of people. Always have, always will. Now, I think I was, how old was I? I was 18, and I just want to reveal, because this is just the funny shit, right? This is just a funny story. Um, Kind of yikes, but it's funny. Um, so I was 18, and for some weird reason, uh, like throughout high school and for a little bit there, I kind of remained like the same. Like my height was where I was at now. My weight was always the same. I was like 140 pounds. I was not a big kid. Didn't have like muscles. I was kind of skinny. And the weird thing is, and my co-host on the Strange Exchange, Andrew, he the funny thing is he used to he used to say these things and I had to look up the term, but he used to call people twinks. Now a twink in a gay community is like a small, feminine looking guy, right? I did not look feminine for the love of God, but I'm saying I had a lot of the qualities. Because I was small. I was a smaller individual. I was height wise, I was okay, but I wasn't like a bulky individual. I was very small, which is why I had to muscle up. I was like, I can't get this damn thing. I can't. I got to be a bigger guy. Which I'm a bigger guy now. But anyway, so around the time I was, because I couldn't drink, legally, I was like, okay, I'm the sober cab. And where this story gets a little crazy is, um, for one of my brother's wife at the time, she had she had a group of friends that she was out with. And he called me, said, "Hey, can you go pick them up from the bar? They just need a ride home." Like, cool, okay. I didn't know I was picking up everybody, but okay, hey, if I'm offered money, I'm gonna do it. So I go and pick up her, and then there was like another girl, and then these two dudes. Which was kind of like, okay, who are these guys? I've never, I don't know who these guys are. Hopefully my brother knows them. But anyway, so, everything's cool, fine and dandy. I drop off, where I went wrong is I dropped off, my sister-in-law at the time, and I dropped her and her friend off, right? So now it's the two dudes in the back of the car. If you can't see where the story's going already, I have bad news for you. But anyway, so I dropped them off because she's sick. She's got that drunk sick. Like, uh-oh, I'm gonna puke, and it's like I don't want nobody puking in my damn car, right? So I dropped them off first. I'm thinking I don't want to clean this up, so I want to get this finished first, right? I want to do that first. Cool. So I dropped them off, whatever, and then I just got to go down the road, and then I got to go like a couple of blocks and drop these other guys off, right? Now, unbeknownst to me, two dudes are gay. No, it's not a problem, but it becomes a problem because it only gets worse. Oh, god damn it. Oh, this story's just awful. But anyway, so I'm driving them back home, and all of a sudden these dudes are they're getting a little weird in the back, and it's like, hey, this is my car, man, let's not do that, right? And I'm just trying everything to, like, I gotta hurry up, I gotta get there, right? And I'm not trying to get pulled over. So I'm doing everything to get to their house as quick as possible. And the dude, this one guy, I don't know who he was. I've never seen him since, thank God. He starts moving his hand and he's putting it on my lap. Kind of like, I don't know if you ever played that game in high school where it's like the uncomfortable game. See how far you can go before you make your friend go like, all right, come on now. All right. I don't like that game because I'm uncomfortable the minute somebody touches my knee. But anyway, so the dude, it's like I'm, and then I can feel his hand like on my fucking jeans, excuse my language, but I can feel it. I'm just like, I start to take my elbow and I'm like trying to like push him off because I'm trying to focus on driving, right? Now, if I was a bigger dude, I could have easily just pulled over and said, all right, get the fuck out. You're out of my car. You're not in here. And normally, I think that's a fair response. But I was like, God damn it. I need this 20 bucks. So I'm like, I'm going to go drop him off. And I do that. And when we get to their house, and I'm just like, I can just, like, this dude is getting closer. And I'm like, my elbow's not doing the trick anymore. Again, I'm a small dude. Okay. I don't have a muscle. This dude's clear. He was bigger than me. He was like 6'5" or something. This dude was huge. And I'm just like, oh no, man. And then, so they get out. So I get there, right? I stop. And eventually his hand moves back. I kind of I breathe like a, like a sigh of relief, like, oh, thank God. And, you know, they give me the 20 bucks. And as they're getting out, the guy says to me, he's like, hey, you want to come inside? I'm like, no, I got to go home. Like, okay, all right, thanks for the ride. Oh my God. I started, I kind of was just like, I was shocked. I was freaked out, right? I was freaking out. Soon as they closed the door, I pulled out of there. I drove out of there quick. And I pick up my phone. I dial my brother's number and I'm like, you have no idea what the hell just happened to me. And, he's kind of tired. So he's like, what happened? And I told him the story and he's like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. And he's apologizing to me. It's like, look, it is what it is. I just don't think I can be a sober cab anymore. It's clearly not for me. Should have filed sexual assault charges. but this is the stuff I'm talking about. Like, I can't, like, this is crazy. So, anyway. And then the next day, my sister-in-law called me. She's like, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry that happened to you. I'm like, and hey, look, what's done is done. Wasn't your guys' fault. Although you did make me pick these guys up too, which was unfortunate. But it was one of those moments where I've never felt so uncomfortable in my life since then. I think that was by far the most uncomfortable moment I have ever experienced. And the reason I can share that today is because I look back at it and I think, my God, I wish I would have lifted weights. Wish I would have done more. Wish I would have done like some sort of martial arts, maybe trained in boxing or something, so I could, maybe kick somebody's ass for even trying to do this. But at the time, I was a skinny little dude, man, and they clearly were trying to make me a one night stand, and that's just not going to happen. So, God, how unbelievably embarrassing. But this is the freedom I'm going to have on the show. This is my show anyway. I get to say what I want. So, but anyway, that story is just funny. It's funny because, yes, was it wrong of what he did? Absolutely, it was. And I was being polite as I could possibly be, right? I was using my elbow because I'm trying to focus on driving. So I'm driving one hand, using my elbow, and I'm like in an uncomfortable position, trying to push him off. It just wasn't working. This dude clearly was stronger than me. And like I was just not having it, right? So moral of the story is make sure that when you're picking people up and you're a sober cab for your friends and your family, you pick up only them. The rest of them can get a damn Uber or something else, man. You leave me the hell alone. This is like one of those times where I wish I had a cab where I could have like the the divider. Just like I should have built that in my car because I drove so many people around. I used to do it all the time. I was driving a 98 Chevy Cavalier. I should have built a divider like right in the middle. So, like nobody can reach me. You should have become a cab driver. But anyway, that's one of the few embarrassing stories I have to tell. I have plenty. And I might share a few on this show. That one is probably the most uncomfortable one to tell because it is technically in today's day and age, it's not funny in certain people's mindsets, and I get it. Was I sexually assaulted? Nah, not to a full extent. I'm not going to put myself in that category like with some people that do unfortunately have to experience really bad encounters. Was it a bad encounter? Oh, hell yeah. I was not in a good mindset. I couldn't sleep for a while. I was like, oh my God. Like I was freaked out. No, I wasn't freaked out because they're gay. Okay, that wasn't the case either. So you can get off your high horse. That was a part of it though. But the biggest thing that freaked me out was the fact that there was nobody there to witness it. Nobody. So they just had to go off my word. Now I was sober. You guys were drunk. So it's like, would they do that when they're sober? Probably not. I don't think they would have. But I wouldn't have done it drunk. Anyway, so that's just one of the embarrassing stories I get to tell. And I'm gonna end the show on that note so I can go throw up. Because my God, just talking about that is absolutely disgusting. But anyway, thank you guys for listening. I'm glad to return with another new episode for you. Hope you enjoy. Hope you get a little bit of something out of this. Again, I try to end on a high note, even though that high note ends up being at my expense. But who cares, right? You get to end on a high note, and you get to learn a little bit too today. Stay tuned for more episodes of not just this show, but the Strange Exchange. We do have episode 49 and episode 50 coming. Episode 50 is going to be awesome. It's going to be special. We got some good things coming down the line. And of course, we're only going to get better. But for now, enjoy the rest of your day. Enjoy the rest of your week. Enjoy your weekend. Fall's here. Enjoy the wonderful weather we're going to have because that snow's coming, people. Unless you live down south, then it's not coming. But it is coming up here in Minnesota. And we have to brace ourselves for the impact. I know I'm ready for it just because I love it. I love the cold more than I like the heat, but I know a lot of people hate it, and I feel your pain because when it's 80 degrees and it's humid and muggy, I despise it. So take care, everybody. See you on the next one.